Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Gillian Bloomfield. I work for the Environmental Leadership and Training Initiative, ELTI, based at Yale University, and I'm joined today by my colleague Maria Otávia Crepaldi from ELTI's Brazil program at the Instituto de Pesquisas Ecológicas, or IPê. ELTI is an initiative of Yale University's School of the Environment, which receives generous support from Arcadia, a charitable fund of Lisbeth Rousing and Peter Baldwin. So we're pleased to welcome you today to the 7th webinar in our 8-part series, Forest and Landscape Restoration in Practice. So today, we are very pleased to be joined by two guests, Anazelia Tedesco, a PhD candidate at the University of Queensland, Australia, and Danielle Arrifano Venturi, Conservation and Restoration Analyst at the World Wildlife Fund, Brazil. Daniel and Anazelia are graduates of ELTI's online certificate program entitled Tropical Forest Landscapes, Conservation, Restoration, and Sustainable Use. And this certificate program was launched in 2019 with the goal of providing a year-long experience for practitioners around the world to take a deep dive into the social, ecological, and funding aspects of tropical land management. And being a part-time online program, we're able to have participants from over 30 different countries learning as a community while also continuing their amazing work all over the world. And Danielle and Anazelia will be presenting today about their work and their research that they've been up to since graduating the program. In Daniel's case, he's been actively applying the capstone project work he did for the program, which relates to a project that the World Wildlife Fund and many collaborators have been implementing to engage the corporate sector and enhance governance for forest and landscape restoration. And for Anazelia, she's been conducting research inspired by the many themes addressed in the program and has been working to answer key questions about the motivations of landholders to engage in natural regeneration and to protect naturally regenerating forests. So our hope is that these two presentations can provide both insights and inspiration about the practical aspects of forest and landscape restoration and what is possible on the ground. So with that, some logistics before we start. To avoid any issues with connectivity and provide access to subtitles, today's speakers have kindly pre-recorded their short presentations, and we'll hear both the presentations and then have a chance for short discussion altogether. So the session is being recorded and will be sent out by email in the next few days, as well as posted to ELTI's YouTube channel. So feel free to take a look at the chat where Maria and I will be posting relevant links and resources in the next few minutes. Anything else you'd like to add, Maria, with from your perspective?
No, Gillian, it's perfect.
Great. So we'll start with Danielle Venturi. Danielle is a conservation and restoration analyst for the World Wildlife Fund, or WWF, in Brazil. He studied environmental management at the University of Sao Paulo and conducted a master's as part of the ESCAS program at the Institute for Ecological Research, or IPê, that Maria is part of, and is ELTI's partner institution in Brazil. Today, he'll be presenting about an impressive collaboration across many different organizations working in the Atlantic forests of Brazil. And this work is to engage the corporate sector in restoration activities and address governance issues to promote the recovery of ecosystem services, legal compliance with Brazil's forest code, and sustainable livelihoods in the Mogi Guaçu River Basin of Brazil. As he'll mention, he was in the first cohort of ELTI's online certificate program from 2019 and 2020. During which he related the content and applied new tools and approaches for project planning to this specific project. So it's so exciting to see how nearly 2 years after graduating the program, he's continued applying this work with his partners at WWF. So while we get the video up, Daniel, you're welcome to activate your microphone if you'd like to say any words.
Thanks, Gillian. I just want to thank for the invitation and all the attendees. It's really a pleasure to be here and be part of the ELTI network. So I hope you enjoy the presentation. Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Venturi. I work for WWF Brazil as Conservation Restoration Analyst. It's a pleasure to be part of this webinar. Thanks for the colleagues of Yale to invite me. I've been working at WWF for more than 10 years in projects of conservation and restoration on the Atlantic forest. I'm based on São Paulo. I have a graduation in environmental management with a generalist profile. In 2019-2020, I participated on the Yale Tropical Forest Restoration Program. Also, between 2018 and 2020, I concluded a master's on biodiversity conservation on ESCAS, Instituto de Pesquisas Ecológicas, which is an organization association of ELTI in Brazil. On my master, my focus was to identify the enabling conditions for investments on Atlantic forest restoration, with a case study on Mantiqueira region, Mogi Guaçu River Basin. This region was also part of my capstone project, the final project of the ELTI certification program. So today I'll be presenting the forest landscape restoration practice in Atlantic forest in Brazil. I will talk about the Brazil landscape restoration strategy, how we're working from the Atlantic forest biome to local, strengthening local forest landscape restoration networks. I will talk about our case study, the project that has been implemented since 2018, that's called Raízes do Mogi Guaçu, in Mantiqueira, Mogi Guaçu River Basin, and also share some lessons learned on my role on Atlantic forest restoration practice. To start it, I want to talk about a little bit about the landscape restoration strategy of WWF Brazil, which I'm part, and Yale support me to develop and to support in a more robust way. In WWF Brazil, we have the same goal of the Brazilian NDC, 12 million hectares restored under restoration compared to 2014. We want to promote the recovery of ecosystem services, water supply, biodiversity, connectivity, carbon sequestration. We want to support the legal compliance. So in Brazil, we have the Forest Code. That's a legal framework that enabling conditions for the recovery of riparian areas and legal reserves. And we want to promote restoration as sustainable development driver to make restoration a feasible way to the green economy. In Brazil, we have, looking for 2030, 5 main strategies. One focus on corporate engagement, developing intelligence tools and monitoring, financial mechanisms and bankable projects, engagement campaigns, all aligned with the landscape coordination. My role at Brazil is to develop and implement projects together with the corporate sector, looking for support the landscape coordination for forest restoration in Atlantic forests. But we don't do that alone. We have a really ambitious strategy connecting global, national, and regional restoration goals, favoring institutional arrangements and alliance. So aligned with the Brazilian NDC of 12 million hectares by 2030, we are part of the Bond Challenge and the UN Ecosystem Restoration with a global ambition of 350 million hectares by 2030. We're part of the Initiative 2020 and other Latin American initiatives, just to highlight the 3 National Restoration Alliance that we are building together with Argentina and Paraguay in Atlantic Forest. We are going a transboundary initiative looking for opportunities for landscape restoration in Upper Paraná and Atlantic Forest, but also in the biome. WWF Brazil is working in 2 main regions, the Atlantic Forest and Cerrado, and we're promoting public-private alliances in these 2 biomes. We just started together the Araticum, that's the Alliance for Cerrado Restoration, and we are part of the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact that have more than 10 years of experience with ambition of 50 million hectares restored by 2050. And just some numbers of Atlantic Forest, the importance of this biome. It's around Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay. It's a biodiversity conservation hotspot, where most of the Brazilian lives. You have 140 million inhabitants in Brazil, 70% of the GDP generated in the forest. There's a high dependence on water in mega cities and agribusiness. It's a human-packed landscapes. The remaining forest is right fragmented. Is a conservation hotspot and is a restoration hotspot with highest area restoration in tropical rainforest landscape. And how we're working to strengthen local forest landscape restoration networks. In Atlantic Forest, there's a lot of technical expertise, a lot of initiatives under development, ongoing. So WWF Brazil's role, we have a strategy to support the landscape coordination and support the strengthening of local institutions. One way to do that is through the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact governance that's really robust and combines a collaborative platform for achieving restoration solutions, engagement with a diverse group of stakeholders and sectors, and regional units that are doing restoration implementation in the field. They have technical groups and a lot of institutions that are part of that. WWF Brazil is also part of the council, together with IPê and other institutions. So consider different motivations and scales of interventions of institutions' interest on forest landscape restoration of the forest is crucial to guarantee that local institutions, especially the implementers, are involved and are being strengthened to assess the opportunities that emerge for the human and economic system restorations and play an active role in it. So this is an example how we work with many strategic coalitions in a region, in a project, that we are looking for the long persistence of the forest, because the projects end. So we need to strengthen coalitions and regional networks that can give a long-term persistence of the protection and restoration of this forest. So we are partnering with other institutions. We are part of the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact. We engage in corporate sector partners. We have a program in WWF Brazil, the WWF network. It's called Forest Forward, which will have some corporate sector engagement. And we're working together with subnational alliance. Now I'm going to talk about Conservador da Mantiqueira. That's a coalition focused on developing public policies and payments for environmental service in a municipality scale. So there's where I go with Mogi Guaçu River Basin. Here's the map of the Atlantic Forest vegetation depth in riparian areas. You can see here's Mogi Guaçu River Basin located. These around Mantiqueira regions that get São Paulo State, Minas Gerais State, and Rio de Janeiro State. In Atlantic Forest, have around 7.2 million hectares of degraded riparian areas. So there's a risk of water scarcity and a high dependence on water from Atlantic Forest. And that is the project that was part of my capstone project of the Yale certification program, but it's my real life project. So we have a project goal to secure biodiversity conservation of Mogi Guaçu's Atlantic Forest by protecting and restoring forest fragments and improving, promoting socioeconomic benefits and sustainable use of river basin. So through the forest landscape restoration promotion and the forest landscape restoration governance and public policies, we want to conserve the sustainable source of livelihood, the ecosystem services that the productive sectors depend, the society depend, protect the Mogi Guaçu forest remnants, protect and restore, and protect the riparian areas and headwaters and aquifer recharge areas. So in the scenario of water risk for productive sector society, we have a project that's called Raiz do Mogi Guaçu, with a goal of at least 200 hectares under restoration by 2024. But the restoration, the implementation, go much beyond. The project goes much beyond the restoration itself. Has a governance component and a landscape perspective component. So together with the national paper that had 2 pulp mills in the river basin, HP, that's a technology company it's connected to the international paper supply chain in WWF. We are working on this project connecting the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact, Conservador da Mantiqueira, and in the ground activities. That we have Cupaiba, that's a local NGO that's been working restoration more than 20 years, and is our partner in implementation, is also part of the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact. So together with this collaboration with Cupaiba, we want to do it institutional strengthening, mobilization, and partnerships with the local institutions for upscale the forest landscape restoration work. So with Cupaiba partnership on this project, and together with the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact, we are promoting capacity building and knowledge sharing with different restoration techniques, promoting natural regeneration with Anazelia, probably going to tell more, and innovative ways to monitor these forests. And so building capacity building and knowledge sharing together with the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact. We will also work in one of the biggest bottlenecks on restoration of Atlantic forest. That's the mobilization of rural farms. So working for an institution that's in the landscape for the long term, we are having more interest on rural farmers that want to do restoration. Most of the areas that we do restoration are private areas. So we depend on the co-investments and the partnerships of the rural farms. Another element together with Conservador da Mantiqueira is work with public policies and development of payments for environmental services in the local scale. So work with Crepaldi as well in public policy to guarantee the long persistence of its forest. So through Conservador da Mantiqueira, we are convening a multi-stakeholder dialogue for the first code compliance and for to engage this for landscape restoration in the River Basin using different platforms. So these are all the encounters that we started since 2019 and after during COVID virtual webinars, which will always engage different sectors and always bring the rural farm to the table. This is crucial for the success of the project. So along these 6 encounters, we have more than 300 participants from 60 different institutions. And we are also doing a collaborative building and adaptive management of the project and a constant update and engagement of the work to create awareness and put everybody to the collaborative impact of the project, seeing the results in the short and medium term. Also sharing knowledge. This is part of the experience of one rural farm that's part of the project that is sharing how it's doing agroforestry with coffee and so on. And the last part, but not really crucial for the long term, when we strengthen institutionally a local institutional network, they can access other funds. So Crepaldi is getting co-investment from One Tree Planted, from Nicosia, and for the River Basin Agency, which promote restoration. So we can have co-investments with other institutions, with other corporate sectors, with public policies, with technical expertise, and with the rural farm. So all the enabling conditions for the long term of the restoration project. Just some photos from the project in 2020, just some months ago. So when you see the results, you tell the stories, engage the rural farm, that's crucial for the development of the project. So here's some lessons learned on my own for restoration practice that I want to share. We need to go beyond planting trees. The development projects that we need to do, development projects can build capacity, strengthen landscape governance, and promote stakeholder dialogue. We need to have a constant collaborative building and adaptive management of the project. We need to build trust and long-term relationships with the local institutions. And in our role that we are not the implementers, we are connecting in WWF, we need to have a constant dialogue with the corporate sector to tell them that they need to go beyond carbon. We have to educate them about the concept of landscape restoration that go much beyond trees. And we need to connect global, national, and regional restoration goals, favor institutional arrangements and alliance for the long persistence of these forests. I really want to thank you all for this opportunity to be here. The ELTI certification program really contributes for my professional development, especially to develop a more robust project, to having more tools and abilities to map the social actors and engagement of the stakeholders, and also all my professional development through this program, the ELTI program, helped me to develop a more robust theory of change of the Brazil restoration strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Danielle. It's so exciting to hear all the work that you guys have been doing and how you're shifting the focus from the technical aspects of the tree planting to capacity development and multi-stakeholder engagement for this important theme. Next we will hear from Maria Otávia, who's going to introduce our next speaker. Maria, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm unable to open my camera because I have technical issues right now with my internet and Yale's account. So I'm really happy to introduce Anazelia Tedesco about, we will talk about the potential of using natural regeneration as a large-scale restoration strategy here in Brazil. Anazelia, it's my friend, and it's a conservation researcher and practitioner holding a Bachelor of Science and a master's degree in animal biology, both from the University of Espírito Santo. I'm really loved and enjoyed this university too, Anazelia. And for the past 10 years, she has worked on natural areas management and forest restoration with government institutions, the private sector, and the third sector in Brazil and Australia. Her experience expand from local projects in partnership with cooperatives to national initiatives coordinated by a non-governmental organization focused on conservation, public policies, and forest landscape restorations governance. Anazelia is now a PhD candidate with the School of Earth and Environmental Science at the University of Queensland, Australia, investigating the potential of applying incentive mechanisms for scale-up restoration to promoting natural forest regrowth persistence. And now we will play the video that Anazelia has already recorded for us. And Anazelia, while we play the video, you are welcome to activate your microphone if you would like to say a few words. Please join us, and thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you for the invitation. I think that my presentation is more focused, so it will be nice to have it just after this big picture, beautifully brought by Daniel, that covered pretty much all restoration projects that we have in Brazil right now. I think that the WWF is involved with many of them. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the presentation, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Anazelia, and thank you again for your patience with our technical difficulties. We will send out the high resolution file of Daniel's video to everyone and include that with the recording. And then for Anazelia's video, my colleague Saskia Santamaria will be sharing the video. Go ahead, Saskia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anazelia Tedesco. I'm a PhD candidate with the University of Queensland, Australia. And today I'll be talking about my research on investigating the potential of using natural regeneration as a large-scale restoration strategy in Brazil. I started conducting this research while I was a participant in the ELTI online course on restoration, conservation, and sustainable practices in the tropics in the cohort of 2020. So just to give a little bit of background, we all know that forest restoration is considered one of the main nature-based solutions for mitigating climate change and the climate change impacts, and is part of many international agreements, with the most ambitious of them aiming at restoring 350 million hectares by 2030. Among which 2 million are in Brazil alone. But the restoration initiatives do face both challenges, both to gain scale and then meet these ambitious targets. Because of that, among all of the restoration strategies that are available, natural regeneration has been seen as one of the most promising, because it can be less costly, but can still deliver the benefits for carbon sequestration, biodiversity conservation, and even socioeconomic benefits. However, protecting these young regenerating forests as a restoration strategy can only be possible if we also achieve this regrowth forest persistence, which will allow us to achieve outcomes of regeneration that are reached only after many decades, such as carbon sequestration and biodiversity conservation. But this regrowth forests, they are frequently cleared, and the reasons for that, for this behavior from the landholders are still unclear. So we are unable many times to achieve the old growth levels of biomass and biodiversity that are desired. So clearly, the ephemerality of regrowth forests is a barrier to large-scale restoration through natural regeneration. Thinking about that and considering the potential that we have in Brazil, both in the Amazon and the Atlantic forest. For example, in the Atlantic forest, we have this study that showed that 2.7 million hectares naturally regenerated in the Atlantic forest in the past years, and there is a potential for more 21 million hectares to regenerate until 2035. However, we have also the same clearing pattern that we see in other places such as Costa Rica and Borneo, with younger native forest cover being lost every year. In this chart here, in the right, we can see the yellow bars that show the naturally regenerated forest that has been cleared. So from one side, we have this potential, and the other side, the potential is not completely used because we keep losing naturally regenerated forests. And thinking about this potential, many restoration initiatives in Brazil came together to explore how to achieve large-scale restoration through long-lasting natural regeneration in complex socio-ecological landscapes such as the Amazon and the Atlantic forest. We started with this natural regeneration analysis, which means that we were able to look at land use changes from the past 30 years using land use maps from the Map Biomes initiative in Brazil. And then we could track the areas that changed from other alternative uses to natural regeneration, and also the natural regeneration patches that were reconverted to other land uses with time, and having these two behaviors of landholders of conserving natural regeneration or reclearing natural regeneration over time. Understanding that, we're able to propose the best incentive mechanisms, such as market-based solutions, command and control, or even non-economic incentives that would be useful to achieve large-scale forest restoration through a natural regeneration in the Atlantic forest and the Amazon. So it's really taking a step back to understand the farmer's behavior and how to use this knowledge to propose the right mechanisms to use natural regeneration as an effective strategy. So to start to understand this panorama in Brazil, we are interviewing landholders in 5 different locations, or five different states, in the Amazon and the Atlantic forest. We'll cover around 500 properties in total that were selected based in that analysis of the natural regeneration. So both properties that cleared or conserved natural regeneration in the past 30 years. And for the interviews, we are working in collaboration with local institutions that know the context, that have good relationship with the populations in these places to facilitate the process. We have interviewed around 200 properties. So these are preliminary results for landholders' motivations for clearing or conserving secondary forests. We can already understand that the financial component is very important for them when they decide if they're going to clear or conserve. So the rewards of clearing or conserving regrowth forests are taken into account, and also the foregone opportunities associated with natural regrowth on their farms. On the other hand, although they understand that there are benefits to biodiversity and ecosystem services when they conserve the naturally regenerated forests, this is not a strong component that plays a role when they decide if they're going to clear or conserve the forests. And similarly, for their perceptions of incentive mechanisms, usually the farmers, they look for alternative incomes that can be generated in these marginal areas of the property where the forest regrows. So for them to conserve natural regeneration patches, it's really important that they are able to associate that forest with some source of income. So what are the potential avenues for using this research once it's completed? We will be able to identify areas adequate to the application of incentives for restoration in these two biomes. We can then prioritize incentive types according to the regional and local context, because these motivations, they can also vary from place to place. We can identify adequate public policies for forest restoration in these two biomes. And we can also plan and implement restoration initiatives that can take into account not only the biodiversity and the carbon sequestration benefits, but also socioeconomic aspects that might be influencing the success of these initiatives. And then we're able to deliver socioeconomic benefits as well. So that's it. Thank you, and it was a pleasure to present for you today.
Thank you so much, Anazelia. It's so important and special to see all the work that you're doing to try to answer these really complicated questions, and how the motivations of the farmers can really be an important question to ask to influence then policy and the implementation and all of these other things that come next. So thank you so much. Anything you or Maria would like to add?
No, I'm really excited to see these presentations, because it's very interesting to hear from rural landowners about their motivations and barriers to maintain natural regeneration, how this can be encouraged and how this can be maintained through the time. So it's really nice, your research, Anazelia, and thank you so much, Danielle, too, about your very brilliant presentation. It's really nice to see how many, it's very important that your strategy of training restoration networks, both locally and to achieve landscape scale. So the Pacto and the other ones, it's a really nice movement. I really see that is growing here in Brazil. Now we're in the decade of the ecosystem restoration, so it's really nice to see and learn with your trajectory. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Go ahead, Danielle.
No, just to highlight the relevance of Anazelia's research, because the biggest challenge of Atlantic forest conservation is to guarantee the long-term persistence of its forests. Not just only consider the new forest, but how we can have mechanisms to guarantee the conservation of Atlantic forests. This is the biggest challenge of Atlantic forest conservation, is to increase their habitat, increase their area, improve their forests. So we need more answers, and the most crucial stakeholder part of this solution are the landowners. So it's really impressive research, and I'm also excited to see the previous results, and as we've been involved, that is really great. Congratulations.
And it's also a challenge to research that at this time because of the pandemic, of course. So yeah, field work that we expected or that we were prepared to do in months before pandemic times, it takes much longer now. So it's yeah, it's valuable data that we're going to have very soon. And it's interesting because in Brazil, I think that the restoration community is very good in building connections and building alliances for restoration. We have the example of the Atlantic Forest Pact that is a role model for many places in the world, but we still fail to include the farmers' perspectives in our approaches, in our initiatives. And then I think it was a natural a natural step for the restoration community in Brazil, just to stop, take a step back and try to understand benefits and barriers for farmers to engage with restoration. That's why I think that everyone is so excited about it and investing so much about it. We have many institutions that are supporting this research now.
Yes.
Yeah, and Anazelia, did you really see this transition hypothesis, forest transition hypothesis tested here from your data? Do you really see any relationship with your data, this hypothesis? The question is, Brazil, it's already in the forest transition hypothesis. Did you see this or not?
I think yes, it could be, and I think it. From my perspective, without using the data, I think that it is, but we should use secondary data to compare and be sure. But yes, there are many socioeconomic aspects that if we take a look from close, we're going to see that they make a difference in how the farmers, they manage their land. So, for example, workforce availability is not the same nowadays as it used to be 30 years, 40 years, 50 years ago. We see this migration from the countryside to the big cities. So it's really hard for farmers to manage their land the same way they did before. So and other things as well, economic or the big economic aspects, they also play a role. But this would be another question, I guess, another big research to be done in Brazil to make more clear all this context.
We have a question about what is the status, and are there methods you're doing to try to increase community ownership and engagement across the different stages of these projects?
I can start, and maybe my colleagues and Otávia can answer. In my experience working with the local institutions that are part of the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact in Mogi Guaçu River Basin, but all regions in the Atlantic Forest, it seems that we really need to work with the institutions that are on the ground, that already have a presence in the field. It's a long-term relationship that these organizations need to have. They need to have in their councils, in their bases, in their network, the rural farms being part of that. I think this is crucial. And I'm talking about rural farms because most of the projects that we have in Atlantic Forest are in private areas, so we need to engage them. And also in the project development, always strengthen the local networks and the local governance to really make all the stakeholders part of the project and make a landscape vision aligned with all the stakeholders. So in Mogi Guaçu, we have the corporate sector, we have the local municipalities that want to put public policies. We have a network of small landowners. So we have different stakeholders, other NGOs, and together we are working to engage the community and work in a long-term persistence. Restoration takes time, so we need to have mechanisms that will guarantee that in the long term.
Have there been, just following up on that real quick, are there challenges bringing together community level people with all those other range of different stakeholders, or has it been working well? Or could you comment a little bit more about that?
There's a lot of challenges, especially for the mobilization of the rural farms to be part of the project. It's part of the answers that Anazelia is trying to answer in the long term. And how we are dealing with these challenges, we are connecting the real examples, the people that are really seeing the difference, that are being seeing the results of the restoration through the ecosystem services that are being protected, mainly for water, mainly for legal compliance. That's one of the main motivations of the restoration in Brazil. So and always make mementos and create enabling conditions to these stakeholders to be together and be part of the project, be part of this initiative. They need to see the results, otherwise they give up. So I think these are the challenges that I'm learning in our project, and we're learning in the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact. I learned with Instituto de Pesquisas Ecológicas more than 30 years in Pontal do Paranapanema. So this is, I think, how we're dealing with the barriers and how we engage the rural farms to be part of that. I think Anazelia and Otávia can complement.
I think I say it the same way as Daniel does. The thing is that different stakeholders, they have different objectives. And once we remember that and we go to the field with that view, we can understand farmers better. So what I mean by that is that it's not enough to go and try to convince farmers to engage in a restoration project. If we're always talking about carbon sequestration and biodiversity objectives, because these are very important aspects, but we cannot reach them with this kind of arguments. So it's a matter of speaking their language and proposing something that's that has a purpose for them too. So a restoration should work for them as well as it should work for climate change mitigation or biodiversity conservation. So if they want to achieve socioeconomic benefits with restoration, we should be looking into that too and making it more, I think, more holistic.
We have another question asking about about the roles. Has there any been engagement with women and youth specifically as it relates to these projects, or ways that you're working with them as specific stakeholders?
In my previous work in Espírito Santo State, we did engage specifically with women in our project. The thing about including youth and women in restoration projects in Brazil, the challenge is that the land title is frequently in the name of the men of the family. So they hold the decision making in the farms. It's very hard to engage women. It's a challenge for us. But I think I see that all institutions working with restoration in Brazil, they're very keen to change this to the best of their abilities, including more women in the projects. But it's a challenge because of the socioeconomic context and culturally too.
Really nice. And did you have any experience with this, Daniel?
Yes, I just want to complement, because with the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact, there's a great discussion on gender aspects. I think we need, if you want to face climate challenges, we need to face, we need to include human, we need to include youth, we need to be more diverse in the projects. So our partner, that's Copaíba, that's it's one of the regional units of the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact, is being led only with women. They have a work with environmental education. I will share the link of the video. It's really impressive. It's really inspiring, their work. And I know Maria Otávia, you, Anazelia, and another leadership that we have in the Atlantic Forest Restoration Pact to be putting that as a priority agenda. So our projects, we need to face, we need to tackle these challenges. That's not only an environmental challenge, it's a worldwide challenge. I'm going to share the video here too.
Wonderful. There's a bunch of questions that have to do with the livelihood aspects and wanting to know if you can expand on it. So, for example, one person asks if you have, what types of livelihood activities are you promoting as part of this for an additional income to the farmers? Whether you have proof that certain types of agroforestry systems are working, And then another question is asking specifically, how is the forest restoration with indigenous species helping farmers in terms of their economics and livelihood? Maybe Anazelia, do you want to go first?
Yes, yeah, I can start. I think that in Brazil, agroforestry systems, I think they come first when we think about livelihoods associated with restoration, but there's also silvopastoral systems and forestry management associated with restoration as well, that are offered to farmers as economic activities. Maria and Danielle, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but in Brazil, most or 99% of the time when we talk about restoration, we're talking about native trees. So the exceptions are or the plants that have to be included in the system if it's a silvopastoral system or agroforestry system. But if we call it forest restoration, we're talking about native trees. One aspect that has been promoted related to that is the use of native trees for economic purpose. So there's a project that is well known in the south of Bahia, if I'm not mistaken, the Symbiosis, and they are invested in conserving the genetic pool for all these native species that have this potential for the economic revenues from restoration as well.
And you, Danielle?
There's a great opportunity in Brazil because our legislation enabling conditions for us to work on legal reserves, that we can have productive restoration, that can have income. That's an opportunity that we are facing, and we are struggling along with other institutions to have it feasible, to make restoration feasible with economic return as an opportunity to generate income for the local farms or the local communities. And it's crucial because if you consider our Brazilian context, with who people are facing economic crisis in Brazil, so we need to tackle the economic perspective at first. Otherwise, they're not going to restart the repair and air. They're not going to recover. So this is really important, and we are including that kind of mechanisms or opportunities in the projects, independent the landscape, depending on the economic perspective as well. Because we need to have the off-takers, we need to have a whole balance of institutions that can support the development of these projects, buying these projects. But agroforestry is really opportunity, and it's part of the forest landscape restoration concept at all.
And may I complement your vision that we have too many lands that is suitable, that is fit for the agroforest systems and have the vocation for forest landscape restoration at landscape scale. So I think we need to change the vision of our people that promote the rural extensionists and the people that have to promote these demonstrative unities or a field day or something that proves that it's profitable to plant trees inside the rural properties and make these systems like a complement of income. It's really interesting to see this on a sheet, well, showing for these stakeholders to make the right decision in your land, and it's totally possible to promote restoration forests at landscape scale. Here, it's totally our vocation.
Thank you, Maria. So we've run out of time. So we know we still have plenty of questions. We encourage you all to be in contact with our speakers and with us after this session. And we really would like to thank both Danielle and Anazelia again for their wonderful presentations, for everyone for logging in from around the world today, and for everyone for your patience with some of our technical issues. As we wrap up, we want to share some important upcoming learning opportunities so that you can learn about ELTI's work. So I'll share with you. The first one is that you can go to our website at elti.yale.edu and click on events to be able to explore our website and see which events are coming up. Then Maria, do you want to share about the upcoming webinar?
Yeah, and for those who speak Portuguese, we have a webinar in 2 weeks on February 24th. The name is The Practical Experience of Rural Stations and Agroecology in Southern Bahia, Brazil, named by Anazelia too. And this is free and open to the public. And we will feature 2 ELTI alumni from ELTI's Brazil training program with IPê. The 2 alumni is Erika Monaro Tubar, Forest Engineer of Socio-Environmental Development of Family Farming Project at the Federal University of Southern Bahia, Brazil, and Lucas Peranovic Lima, agronomist of the Povos da Mata Agroecology Network, Monte Pascoal Núcleos, Brazil. And Gillian will be putting the registration link in the chat.
Thanks, Maria. So also we have just launched our call for applicants for our online certificate program, for which both Danielle and Anazelia are alumni. We would love to have you all join as well, or that you spread the word with your colleagues and with your networks. Again, this is a 1-year online, high-touch online program. And in this program, participants engage in 4 8-week online courses on many different concepts, the fundamentals, the human dimensions, land use strategies, and funding for conservation and restoration projects. And then there's that 12-month capstone project, similar to what Danielle was presenting about, where participants relate the content to an actual project or landscape of interest. And then finally, a field course once it is safe to do so with the pandemic and everything. So who enrolls in the program? It's a wide audience, really broad. It can be staff members from different types of institutions, graduate students or recent graduates, landholders, farmers, community organizers, really anyone who's interested in designing, implementing, and monitoring conservation and restoration initiatives. So some upcoming deadlines is that March 4th is our priority deadline. So try to meet that deadline and contact us if you have any questions. There's also a final deadline of April 15th. So if you have any questions, you can contact us at tropicalcertificate@yale.edu, as well as speak with our speakers today. So it was great to hear about their experiences and what they've been up to since they graduated the program. And we'd love to have other awesome participants as part of the program for this next year.
And finally, we would also encourage you to sign up for our ELTI's event and mail list. You can find the sign up box at the bottom of each web page, and check out our videos on YouTube, where we will also post the recording of today's webinar. And thank you again to everyone for joining us today. Looking forward to see you soon, and take care and goodbye.
Thank you so much again to our speakers.